welcome back to A Speech a Week. It has been a hot minute, and I'll tell you why very shortly. I have had lots of auditions coming in. Well, lots of auditions. I've had some auditions been happening, and I've had to be in London on these days. And in the lead up to these sessions, just charging my iPad there, don't mind that cable. In the lead up to these sessions, I've just really struggled to fit in pre-recording them. So we're live today, a few weeks behind schedule, but we got there eventually. And we're live, we're doing a live video today. We are going to be looking at Helena in A Midsummer Night's Dream. Lo, she is one of this confed'racy. If I can find it, I did have it open, however, there we go. As I was recording or taking the photo of the thumbnail, it just flicked through. And I will announce now that after this one, we are going to have a little break from this because I have got lots of exciting things in the pipeline, which you'll see. Do follow my social media at Pippa UK and sign up to my newsletter if you haven't done so already. I'll put a link in the bio below, or you can just go to pippamoss.com and sign up. Or you can go to review.co/profile/the British acting coach, I think, to sign up to my newsletter as well. So, two options for you there. How exciting. So previously we were looking at the scene in Act 3, Scene 2. In fact, were we? Yes, that's the right one. The conversation between Helena, Lysander, Demetrius, and all of those lovely, brilliant characters. In fact, was it there? You've asked me to go the way I had no judgment when I saw. I feel like we've skipped ahead. Anyway, we're going to look at Lo, she's one of this confed'racy today. We might not get through all of it, but what we are going to start today is breaking down that monologue, essentially. I'm actually, I haven't looked at it at all today since I last looked at dreams, so we are going to have a quick go through of it as we're working through it. Yes, we did go through this. We went through the scene leading up to it. Good, I'm just double checking. So we are going to go from Lo, she is one of this confed'racy. Hermia has just said, "You speak not as you think, it cannot be." And then Helena says, "Lo, she is one of this confed'racy." I'm just going to quickly sight read it to lift it off the page for you. Lo, she is one of this confed'racy. Now I perceive they have conjoined all three to fashion this false sport in spite of me. Injurious Hermia, most ungrateful maid, have you conspired? Have you with these contrived to bait me with this foul derision? Is all the counsel that we two have shared, the sisters' vows, the hours that we have spent when we have chid the hasty-footed time for parting us, is all forgot? All school days' friendship, childhood innocence? We, Hermia, like two artificial gods, have with our needles both created one flower, both on one sampler, sitting on one cushion, both warbling the same song, both in one key, as if our hands, our sides, our voices, and our minds had been incorporate. So we grew together, like to a double cherry, seeming parted, but yet an union in partition, two lovely berries moulded on one stem. So with two seeming bodies, but with one heart. Two of the first, like coats in heraldry, due but to one and crowned with one crest. And will you rent our ancient love asunder to join with men in scorning your poor friend? It is not friendly, 'tis not maidenly. Our sex, as well as I, may chide you for it. To which Hermia replies, I am amazed at your passionate words. I scorn you not, it seems that you scorn me. Which, of course, it almost kind of doesn't, because I think Helena's actually being quite nice here. For the most part, of course, she does says, and will you rent our ancient love asunder to, well, this is where I messed the lines up actually, isn't it? To join with men in scorning your poor friend. She's asking that question. And of course, your friend would be, if I was accused of scorning a friend, I would be offended. Oh, no, I'm not doing that. What are you talking about? So that's probably why Hermia is feeling a little bit like, well, you're scorning me actually for thinking that of me. This is a lovely speech, and there's lots of lovely metaphors and analogies in there that Helena is desperately trying to draw up and conjure up in Hermia's eye to snap her out of this scorn that Helena believes Hermia is teaming up with the boys in scorning her. You know what I mean? Great. So let's just quickly translate it then. Like I said, we might not get through all of this, but I will try and whiz through it because I've got a call immediately after this. So let's go. Lo, she is one of this confederacy. I talked about that in the last video, actually. I'm not going to talk about that again. There's an exclamation mark there. So there is an outburst here, I believe. And, excuse me, a realization from Helena that Hermia is in on this as well. Excuse me. Now I perceive they have conjoined all three to fashion this false sport in spite of me. Now I perceive, now I realize they have all conjoined, they've all teamed together. They have teamed together, all three of them, to fashion. If you fashion something, you create something, right? You make something, the image appears of this false sport, the game of love, this contrived game of love, I guess, this joke that they're putting onto Helena, in spite of me. And remember, often we kind of play, or we see Helena as being this very self-absorbed kind of person, but actually, like, you would believe this, surely. You would think that all three are playing a trick on you. And considering, well, let's consider the situation. You're lost in the middle of the forest as young teenagers with no food, with no water, with no shelter. You don't know what's going on in the forest. Traditionally, bandits would live in forests. Outcasts would live in forests. It's dangerous. Bears, lions, God knows what could be there. You're going to be running on adrenaline and being a little bit more on edge and nervous about these things as it is, let alone the people that you're with ganging up on you to make a joke. I think she's going to be a little bit stressed at this point. So that little interjection, now I perceive they have conjoined all three to fashion this false sport in spite of me, I do believe is a bit of a potentially realization, but sharing with the audience at this point. And then she turns on Hermia. And this is another thing. It's quite clear who she's talking to. She doesn't say, now I perceive that you have conjoined all three. She says they have. She's stepping back and sharing with us that they have conjoined. So if you say, oh, they are doing this, who are you talking to? The audience. Hi, Ernest. Welcome back. We're on Midsummer Night's Dream. We're going from Helena's speech, Lo, she is one of this confederacy. Fabulous. Moving on, line 195. She then singles out Hermia, injurious Hermia. If we injure someone, what are we doing? We're hurting them. Someone is injured, they are hurt, they are broken, they are damaged. She is saying injurious Hermia. She's calling Hermia the implicator of injury. Exclamation mark. Again, we're getting very passionate at this point. Most ungrateful maid. She's not just an ungrateful maid. She's the most ungrateful maid. Shakespeare's giving you lots and lots of lovely language at this point to use. And of course, at that point, that is a bit mean, isn't it? If you're calling your best friend the most ungrateful maid. And then she asks a question. Have you conspired? Have you with these contrived? She gets more specific here. So these are two actual separate thoughts. before she finishes the sentence, which could have gone like this: have you conspired to bait me with this foul derision? That's the way the sentence should be. But Shakespeare has decided to plop in an extra additional thought in there. Have you conspired, Hermia? No. Have you with them conspired? So what has Shakespeare put in there that's different? He's changed Helena's blame game, I suppose. She's asking Hermia, first of all, have you done this? No, wait, actually, have you teamed up with these people, these boys, to and contrive? If something's contrived, it's artificially created. It feels forced sometimes. Look up these words. Good to see you, Ernest. So conspired, contrived. There's lots of lovely words in there that Shakespeare's giving us to play with. To bait me with this foul derision. If we bait something, thinking of fishing, we bait a hook for the fish to bite onto, so we catch the fish. She's feeling baited at this point. And again, it's bait me with this foul derision. You normally put something on a hook to tease someone in, but actually she's being baited and prodded and poked with something called foul derision. Question mark. I'm not going to look up those words for you today because I do need to whiz through them, but I would expect you, if you're doing this speech or indeed looking at any part of this play, to actually look up these words. Make sure you use a dictionary. Good job. Lovely. And that's a question. She's asking Hermia a question. So ask it. And quite rightly so, Hermia doesn't respond. This isn't a monologue. This is still a conversation between her and Hermia. Hermia doesn't answer. Why doesn't she answer? If you're playing Hermia or imagining Hermia responding to you, well, how would you feel if your friend, your best friend, just suddenly turned on you and accused you of ganging up on her with these two guys, one of whom is the love of your life, allegedly? I'd probably be in a bit of a state of shock, don't you? I don't understand. What are you talking about? Huh? And at least my face would say that. So bear that in mind when you ask that question to Hermia. Moving along. Is all the counsel that we two have shared? Counsel is quite an unused word, I suppose, these days, in the sense of when look it up, of course, but in the olden days, counsel was, I think, kind of conversation. Counseling is a modern word that we use and do understand the idea of, like therapy. It's a conversation. And I think that's what she's saying here, is all the conversation we've shared, all of the words we have imparted with each other. The sisters' vow, she goes into a list. She's breaking down their friendship in order to try and make Hermia see that we are a team, actually, and these guys are nothing to do with it. Why are you throwing away all of this that we have done together? Or the counsel that we two have shared. Again, we two have shared, not you have said to me. We two have shared. She's really trying to pair up with Hermia at this point. That's a very clear tactic in the speech. The sisters' vows. Remember, vows, back in these days, you couldn't just get a divorce willy-nilly. Vows carried a lot more weight than they do today. And remember, again, in these days, words and what you said and your appearance and your honor and your reputation were absolutely at the forefront of most people's lives and their minds. So when, we make a vow, the vow of marriage today, I don't think it carries as much weight as it did back in these days. When get a divorce, people cheat on each other all the time, and that would have happened in these days too. However, I think we forget how important some of these words are and were to our characters at the time. So, a sister's vow, that's a big thing. If you make a vow with your sister, you are sisters, The hours that we have spent. Now she's talking about the time that they have spent together. when we have chid the hasty-footed time for parting us, when you've got to be home by 6 o'clock ready for dinner, but you're out playing with your friends. Oh no, I don't want to go home. I want to carry on doing what we're doing. Damn it, why does the time have to go so fast? Think of these memories, think of the times. And if you're playing Helena, have these memories ingrained in your brain so that they come up as you say this. Think of the times that you were playing with Hermia or doing something with Hermia and you had to go and you both cursed that time sped by so fast. It's really, really important to do all of that kind of back work and leg work when we're doing these speeches, contemporary or classical. Oh is all forgot. O's, what do O's imply? Passion, sorrow, joy, whatever. But in this context, I think she's yearning and upset that Hermia has forgotten about all of this. And in fact, she's asking Hermia, is all forgot? Have you forgotten how we are a unit and sisters? Have you forgotten that? Ask the questions and the audience will understand clearer. Good. And then she goes on. So she's not done yet because, why not? Hermia doesn't respond. Vocally, however, physically, she of course will probably look bewildered or go to say something or act like she has forgotten. I don't know. It's up to you to decide, and for whoever's playing Hermia in your production or whatnot to decide as well. And so she carries on. All school days friendship? Childhood innocence? Question mark. So another question. Being very specific, going further back in time now. Back when we were at school, when we were really, innocent children. Don't you remember this? Hi, Ryden. Welcome back. She's being very specific. And then she goes on to make a statement. So this is after 3 questions, really, 3 back-to-back questions. She tells Hermia, we, Hermia, different tactic, different attitude in this line, like 2 artificial gods, have with our needles created both one flower, both on one sampler, sitting on one cushion. Again, I'm not going to go into this. I want you to figure out what she means when she says sampler. Artificial gods. Interesting. And I like that bit, actually. For me, that implies there's that lovely line in Kay Tempest's, one of her plays, about, we're walking through the corridors like the Roman Empire or something. When you're kids, you feel unstoppable sometimes. When you're with your friends and you're walking down the corridor, you feel like the bee's knees, for want of a better phrase. And I think that's what she's saying here. We, Hermia, like 2 artificial gods, like pretend gods. We've sat on our cushion and we've sewn together and we've put the worlds to rights. That's what I think she's saying here. And it says, yes, ooh, lovely. She is using all the bullets in her chamber in order to make the familial connection. Exactly. So familial connection, that sisterhood connection. Absolutely. And there's lots of, she's going from singular to plural very strategically in this section. We, us 2, Hermia, like 2 artificial gods, with our needles created both one flower. So think about that. If you're literally sewing, got some tissue here, let's use that. You're both working from the same cloth and you're both sewing. Do you see how close together you'd have to be if you're working on the same flower? That's how close they were. They were working on the same thing. They were talking together. They were one. They were absolutely joined. Get these images really clear in your brain because it will help you tenfold. Both of us on one sampler, both of us sitting on one cushion, both warbling one song. There's this constant 2 into 1, like one body has 2 hands. This is Hermia, this is Helena, and they're coming together. She keeps bringing them together in her language. It's beautifully done, and I've rarely seen this speech done well. both warbling of one song. Look up warbling. If you warble, what does it imply? It's lovely. Both in one key, as if our hands, interesting, she brings up hands actually, our sides joined at the hip is a phrase that I think she's kind of drawing on here. Voices and minds had been incorporate. Incorporate is a very popular word in Shakespeare's plays. He uses it a lot. Look up what it is. If we're incorporate, if you're cooperating with something else, there's a team, a unison, a partnership there. Incorporate. It's a nice word. But I think because of corporations, we've got a different feeling to it, to how the true meaning of the word in Shakespeare's days would have resonated. So look it up, look up the true meaning, and especially the Greek origins of the word, or the French origins, or whatever, the origins of the word. Do that. I'm just doing my speech a week, my love. No, it's fine. No, I'm saying like it's fine. Don't worry about it. James is back in the building, back in the room. He's done a little tap dance for you then. If only I could have turned the camera around. So, and then we've got that full stop. So Hermia has made 2 artificial gods with our needles on one flower, both on one sampler, both on one cushion, both singing one song in the same key, as if our hands, sides, voices, and minds had been together. There are 10 images. 10 images in those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines before she says, we were one, we were incorporate, and before we get a full stop. That's specific. And yet often when I see people do this bit, they just reel it off like it's just one thing. It's not one thing. Helena is using 10 separate examples here to try and snap Hermia out of this game she's playing with these stupid men. Yeah? Be clearer with it. Very good. Then she carries on the story after this full stop. So we grew together. We grew together. Like to a double cherry. How many people of Shakespeare's day, do you think would have ever witnessed seeing or tasting a cherry? Not many. So there is absolutely no accidental reason, I think, that Shakespeare has picked a cherry at this point. Maybe he recently discovered one for the first time. Cherries are fruit. In fact, maybe they would have been a bit more popular because there would have been berries growing on trees. I don't know. But in this day and age, cherries are expensive. They're more of a luxurious fruit, right? And if you think about it, they're really quite tiny for what you get. But they are normally in pairs. There's that, even in sweets, Haribo, there's the 2 cherries. They're like little, one of my favorites actually, when I can find ones without gelatin in them. Anyway, Ernest says, no cherries in Old England. Thing is, there probably would have been, but how many people would have actually eaten them and tried them and tasted them? I don't think that many. I mean, I might be way off the mark here, but in central London, where this play would have been performed, I can't help but think they would have been a slightly more extravagant, tasty, more for the affluent folk type of fruit. She doesn't talk about apples because apples come separate. She doesn't talk about potatoes, they grow singular. She's talking about a fruit, a piece of fruit that is rarer and smaller and more dainty and connected. She could have said grapes at this point, but she doesn't. She's being very specific in her language here. And again, I think it's interesting that Shakespeare uses cherries. Could have said 2 roses growing on one stem, but he doesn't. Cherries and fruit. We don't eat roses, we smell them, but fruit, cherries, they have a taste, they have a color, they look a certain way, they smell differently to other fruit. I think as a sensory analogy, they're a lot more tasty than something like a rose, or, the other analogies she's used thus far. Lo, she is one of this confederacy, Act 3, Scene 2, Ryden. Same as before. Same scene as before, we're just running on. Very good. Oh. Just trying to find my point again now. So we grew together, like to a double cherry. Seeming parted, they seem separate, but if you go up the stem, but yet an union in partition, it says in my copy of the script. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that. But yet a union, an union. I mean, an is grammatically the right word there, but it feels odd. Union. It's a juxtaposition, actually, really, isn't it? A single thing. Union, a double thing. Very interesting. A double cherry has the appearance of a heart, says Ernest. It does indeed. If we turned it around, and sometimes a part of the anatomy south of the equator. Absolutely. Indeed. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Yeah, and I think there is that element, actually, Definitely. I'm also thinking about breasts as well. This partnership, this feminine quality potentially as well. No, not half-assed at all. No, it's I think that's an absolute relevant thing to think about. Because maybe the boys at this point are laughing at that. Just talking about cherries, or do you know what I mean? There could be so much more stuff going on there. These are teenagers lost in the woods without any parental control or authority. Maybe it is funny. Maybe there is a snigger there, a joke. Oh, she's talking about balls again. You don't know, but that would make it come to more life, and that would make it harder and more annoying for Helena that they're making more of a joke out of what she's saying. So I actually think that's a valid point to make, and I think you're right to bring it up. Brilliant, love it. So we grew together, like to a double cherry, seeming parted, but yet an union in partition, a union in our separation. Two lovely berries, moulded on one stem. So with two seeming bodies, but one heart, two like the first, two of the first, like coats in heraldry. Again, I'm not going to go into that, but there's another analogy she brings up now. So she's been using the cherry analogy. Now she brings up like coats in heraldry. Due but to one and crowned with one crest. I think I said crowned. Due but to one and crowned with one crest. I would add that in. Full stop. So go into detail. What is she saying here? Why is she getting this specific? Why is she now thinking of heraldry and, coats of arms and all of that sort of thing? And it says, yes, when we did this in HS, we didn't, in high school, we didn't know whether to be excited or scared for the characters. Yeah, exactly. So how on earth do you think the characters are feeling at this point? Terrified. Marvelous. I'm really trying to stagger my energy as well, by the way, as we're doing this today. I've had so many Zoom calls this week. And I think when I'm on Zoom, I tend to get a bit animated and a bit like I'm on a train talking on the phone, loud, volume-wise and everything. So I'm trying to rein it in and be very considerate that I don't need to do that, to conserve and preserve my energy. I've got a long day again today and tomorrow. Day free on Friday, can't wait. Teens want to be alone till they're alone. Exactly. As we see at the start of this play as well, I don't want to go back too much into that, but at the start of the play, the teenagers are being told that they need to marry who they need to marry for the better of the kingdom. They're being bossed around by their family. And traditionally, in every Shakespeare play, when someone is shipwrecked on an island or thrown into a forest, what happens? There is self-discovery, there is learning, there is commotion, there is drama, there is something going on that wouldn't have happened if they stayed in their natural habitat. Two gents, Midsummer Night's Dream, As You Like It, The Tempest, Twelfth Night. What else? I mean, the history plays are all about blood and guts and gore, aren't they? But there's always a movement, a change of location. Hamlet, Caesar, Romeo and Juliet. It's when we expand the boundaries that we are set in that the drama and the story unfolds, right? Brilliant. And then we're nearly at the end here. Crowned with one crest. Even the double, not the double, it's not, I think, is alliteration by definition, does it have to be two or more or three or more? Shakespeare's giving us the same sounds to make and the same sounds in different words to reinforce the double, the partition and the connection and the incorporation that we've got. Crowned with one crest. Crowned with one crest. Crowned with one crest. By using that sound twice, he is doing what the double cherry does, and that is connecting two words by using the same the same letter setup. Brilliant. Genius, you might say. And then we've got the next question. I think it's only two needed. Yeah, exactly. If he said crowned with one crown in crest, for example, he wouldn't have said that because he's not an idiot like me. That would have been three. But actually, what is Helena's argument at this point? Us two are one. So why are you teaming up with these three idiots? Two idiots, becoming a threesome of idiots. Interesting. And then we've got that full stop after and crowned with one crest. And then we've got another question. She's asking again. Oh, I see. It's only two needed. But exactly what you're saying and what I said there all makes sense. It's only two needed. So there we go. We've got that alliteration. Although I think it needs to be two together to be alliteration. For example, crowned crest, not crowned with one crest. Is that alliteration by definition? I'm not sure. That is for me to discover after the call. Yes, Ernest says. Yes. To which one? We'll never know. So moving on. The next question. And will you rent? If you rent something, what are you doing? Loaning it out temporarily. Will you rent our ancient love asunder? Asunder. Such a good word. Look it up. What does it mean? Will you rent our ancient love, our historical love, our lifelong, antique, bottom to the top love, lifelong love, asunder, to join with men in scorning your poor friend? Now I see why Hermia's getting a bit upset as well. Because Hermia is surely as well going to be like, well, yeah, we did do that. We did do that. We do that. Why are you bringing it up? Oh, because you think I'm renting out our love by teaming up with these jackasses to mock you. Don't think so. And there's definitely a bit where, you know, Hermia and Helena do get a bit more fired up and annoyed at each other for these accusations. So that line as well is beautiful in the iambic pentameter rhythm. And will you rent our ancient love asunder to join with men in scorning your poor friend? I don't really like clicking and doing that at the same time. Apologies. But try it out for yourself. It's great. And that's a question. Again, actually ask Hermia this question, because we're getting to a point as well where Hermia is going to speak. It's a conversation, not a monologue. It is not maidenly. Oh, sorry. No, it is not. It is not friendly. 'Tis not maidenly. Our sex, as well as I, may chide you for it, though I alone do feel the injury. And I definitely think there's a connection here to the women in the audience at this point. It's not friendly, so it's not very pleasant, and it's not maidenly. It's not very virginal, young, womanly behavior to behave like this. And it says, I agree, asunder, annui, incrementalize, what am I saying? Incrementalism, are words we need to use more of. Inui, what does that mean? Am I even saying it right? Incrementalism. I feel like that's something I do know. Increments, small increments, small rises. Ennui. Oh yeah, ennui. Now I feel like I know what it is, but I also don't know. Ennui. I'll look it up, but also I'm interested to see how you'd say it because I feel like you'd crack a good joke telling me what they mean. Let me know what it means. Type it in. Ennui. Ennui. But there you go. If you don't know, you don't know. You just got to go with it, haven't you? Got to try it. So in that last section, Helena is telling Hermia, it's not friendly behavior. It's not, maidenly behavior. Our gender, our whole sex, our gender, as well as I, so all the women in the world, as well as me, and me too, because you're singling me out and making me look like an idiot, may chide you for it. Chide, again, another very commonly used word in Shakespeare's compendium. And in fact, chide and injurious is reminding me of two gents, the lovely bit, injurious wasps, where Julia is ripping up a letter. And what's her name? Lucetta says something about chiding Julia. Can't remember if I think it's at the beginning, or it might be a hybrid of the two scenes I'm thinking of, where they're talking about, all of that stuff. Commonly used. So again, the more work we do on one play and Shakespeare in general, the more we can piece together and tangibly connect the dots. When we're doing another play, we can go, oh yeah, he said that and used those words in Midsummer Night's Dream. What was the context? Oh yeah, it's pretty similar to the context here. I know what they mean now. I get it quicker and sooner and faster and in more detail. Lovely. Ernest says, a feeling of listlessness and dissatisfaction arising from a lack of occupation or excitement. So in high school, when the cherry illusion was given to us, teenage boys were chastised for laughing and thinking of female virginity. But were we really correct? Potentially. But I think in high school, your teacher should have gone, exactly. So what would Lysander and Demetrius, who are very much a part of this scene, although they don't have any words to say right now, what would they be saying about it? That being said, don't upstage the people with the lines. The lines are more important than the little side jokes that go on in upstaging other actors. I'm very passionate about this. No, she had admonished us. Of course she did. But of course, there could have been a moment where, oh, miss, I was only doing what Lysander and Demetrius would have done, like chill. Although you would have said it in an American accent, wouldn't you, Ernest? Brilliant. So yeah, our sex, as well as I, may chide you for it, though I alone do feel the injury. And of course she does, because she's the only one in this play at this point, feeling the injury. The audience are enjoying it, most likely. So again, is that a little moment where Helena's looking at the audience and realizing they're all kind of laughing at her turmoil, and that she is in fact the only one here feeling the pain of the situation? Of course. That being said, Hermia is also offended. As she says, I am amazed at your passionate words. I scorn you not. It seems that you scorn me, actually, babes. There we have it. We're going to wrap it up there because your girl hasn't eaten anything yet today. I'm starving. This is my lunch break for today, and I've got a call very shortly after this segment. So I've got 20 minutes to get my stuff together. Ernest says, but this YouTube puts a cherry on top for my study of Midsummer. How exciting. I'm so thrilled. On the ice cream of Shakespeare, my channel is the cherry on top. Lovely analogy. Brilliant. Adore it. Been really good to see you. Well done for Well done for popping in and stopping by. Thinking of cherries now. Cherry. Ernest. Or it's the pits. Very good. Slightly offended, but also I know what you're doing there. Ha 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 ha. It's been really good to see you. Well done, Ryden, for joining in as well. And anyone watching this back, well done for joining in the conversation and being here. We are going to be taking a break now for the foreseeable. It's most likely that a speech a week will not return until around November 2022. So if you're watching this in the year 2056, this isn't going to bother you at all. But if you are watching this in real time, um, then yeah, we will be taking a break, a small hiatus from this. I will update the channel with some more pre-recorded videos about Shakespeare. I will be talking lots about Shakespeare over the coming weeks as I do embark on my next journey, my next gig that I'm doing as an actor. I have booked a job, and that's why we are taking a break. Super exciting. Now I'm back in the UK and COVID is alleviated. These things are actually happening again. I will be taking a midsummer break. Yes. So keep up to date with my newsletter if you are signed up to that. I do update that every week. And also join my social media if you haven't done so already. I will be updating things on there. And if you ever have any questions about Shakespeare, do just comment below, and I do read every comment. I get back to you as soon as I can. Ryden says, good to be back for this. Just came back from Actors Program, enjoyed it. Oh, fabulous. Well done. Well done. Lovely to see you all. I'm going to go get some food. Pleasure to work through Midsummer Night's Dream with you a little bit more. And I will see you in the not so distant future where we can tuck into Shakespeare again. Lots of love. Peace out. Hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. See you soon.